Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a focused exploration of a curated stack of sources to bring you the key knowledge and insights you need.
Think of it as your shortcut to becoming instantly well-informed.
For this deep dive, we're turning our attention to the fascinating world of French museum architecture, guided by our source document,
Yeah.
our mission, to uncover how these buildings are much more than just, places holding artifacts they stand as powerful cultural symbols and, well, significant architectural statements.
Absolutely. And what makes this so compelling, I think, is the sheer diversity of approaches. Our source showcases everything from historical buildings brilliantly reimagined
Right.
as museum spaces to entirely new architectural creations. It really highlights the ingenuity architects bring to designing these vital cultural hubs.
The document starts by making a pretty fundamental point, doesn't it? That museums are really markers of civilization.
Mm.
They're not just about displaying collections, they actively contribute to cultural life, shaping the experience for locals and, visitors from around the globe.
That's exactly right. It's that dual nature. They are both showcasing their collections and simultaneously on show themselves
Oh, okay.
as architectural and urban symbols. This gives them a really powerful role within a city or region.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. It's like the building itself becomes an exhibit, right?
Totally.
Its design and presence in the urban landscape send a message, and that message can have a real impact.
Exactly. A striking and well-conceived museum can significantly boost the reputation of a locality, becoming a major draw for tourism,
Right.
and even putting lesser-known places on the international map. You see this phenomenon where a signature building becomes, synonymous with a city's cultural identity.
It really puts the architect in a pivotal position then.
Definitely.
Their vision shapes not just how we experience the art inside, but also the very identity of the museum as a landmark. It goes way beyond just providing shelter for the collections.
And with that primary role comes some really complex challenges. Museum design is a multi-layered undertaking. Architects had to think about the best way to present the collections, create welcoming and accessible spaces for visitors, and also seamlessly incorporate all the necessary behind-the-scenes operations.
Right, all the essential work of curating, restoring delicate pieces, keeping records, and secure storage. It's a whole other world that has to be thoughtfully integrated.
It really does.
It's definitely not just about creating beautiful galleries.
Yes. No way. The source emphasizes that these projects demand in-depth studies and truly innovative solutions. Whether it's injecting new life into a historic building, incorporating modern exhibition design, museography,
Right, the art of presenting the content.
exactly, or harmonizing old and new architectural elements, or designing an entirely new, acclaimed museum from scratch. The architectural obstacles are significant.
Okay, so let's delve into some specific examples. The document first looks at innovations in historic spaces. This is where architects take existing structures, often with their own rich history, and kind of reimagine them.
Yeah, it's modern museum environments. A compelling example here is the Champollion Museum Scripts of the World in Figeac.
Ah, okay.
Located within 4 medieval buildings, including the birthplace of Champollion, the scholar who, deciphered the Rosetta Stone.
Right, famous guy.
The renovation by Moitié-Rouzière is quite ingenious. They fundamentally restructured the interior to free up space for the exhibitions and create these really interesting lines of sight, visual perspectives through the museum.
And here's where it gets really interesting technically. They actually suspended the new concrete floors from the old facade using metallic struts.
Yeah, it's this visible connection between the historical structure and the modern intervention.
Mm.
And these struts also form the basis for loggias and sun terraces with these open metallic trellis floors. You can literally experience the space between the old and new skins of the building.
That's wild, a real dialogue between eras.
It is. And the second facade, set back from the original and made of glass panels featuring hand-laid copper leaf hieroglyphs.
Wow, copper leaf hieroglyphs.
Yeah, on a polymer film between layers of PVB glass. Imagine the meticulous work of applying those delicate copper shapes.
That sounds stunning, a fusion of old craft and modern tech.
Totally. And the interior design, with each of the 7 rooms across 4 levels, unified by a distinct color palette linking floor, ceiling, signage, it creates this really immersive and cohesive experience.
Okay, moving on to Angoulême, we find the Comic Book Museum, another fascinating example of adaptive reuse.
Yeah, here, old wine warehouses situated beside the Charente River were transformed. The aim was to showcase comic books as, a significant and evolving art form.
Right, in a contemporary museum context.
Exactly. elevating them.
I really like the ambition of that putting comic books in that fine art realm. The description highlights a vast, well-lit space with a curved path guiding you through the history. Sounds engaging.
It does. And the reorganization of their permanent collections into 4 key sections: history, the workshop, techniques, the salon, aesthetics, and the gallery, thematic exhibitions, give visitors a clear structure.
A comprehensive look at the art form. Okay, then we have the Fabre Museum in Montpellier. This project faced the challenge of connecting 3 substantial buildings from different historical periods
Hmm.
while respecting what they call the spirit of the place. That phrase comes up a lot, doesn't it?
It does. It seems to refer to the inherent character and history of a location. Here, the architects, Brochet-Leguse-Poyot, operated on the principle that each part should retain its unique identity but contribute to the whole journey.
And the courtyards were vital breathing spaces.
Yeah, particularly the Soulages courtyard, which is intentionally open to the city, fostering that connection with the local community.
And the light wing, this glass structure for the donation of works by Pierre Soulages, it sounds like a very elegant contemporary addition.
It does. The north facade, with its textured glass scales and that tracing paper effect from the interior glass panels, must create a really interesting interplay of light.
A modern touch that still harmonizes. Okay, shifting focus to Paris now. The historical Charles de Gaulle. A different kind of challenge. Inserting a modern museum into the historic Army Museum under the courtyard of Les Invalides.
Yeah, talk about a location steeped in history. The concept that used audiovisual architecture sounds really innovative.
Using light, interactivity, multimedia.
And even art installations to bring historical archives to life dynamically. It's fascinating how they structured the experience.
3 sections.
Yeah, an immersive, multi-screen inverted dome first for a powerful sensory intro, then a symbolic ring of history with key 20th century images, and finally 3 heritage doors guiding you from emotion towards intellectual understanding.
Moving beyond just static displays. Very cool. Staying in Paris, the Orangery Museum renovation. Aiming to synthesize its history as an orange grove with its museum function while respecting its form.
And the constraint of symmetry with the Jeu de Paume gallery next door led to that clever solution of expanding underground.
Right. And a crucial goal was restoring natural light for Monet's water lilies, just as he intended.
Exactly. Honoring the artist's vision. The creation of that oval hall as a central light shaft, connecting all levels and adding teaching elements was key, creating the perfect environment for those iconic paintings.
Of course, you can't talk French museum architecture without mentioning the Musée d'Orsay.
Oh, the classic, that transformation of the former train station. Landmark project in adaptive reuse.
Absolutely. The architect's principles, city as constant change, recycling buildings, the dialogue between old and new.
Were truly forward-thinking. They masterfully scaled down that vast train hall, creating intimate rooms and galleries along that central, sloping avenue under the magnificent glass roof.
It's a brilliant example of taking a strong existing structure, Victor Lowley's original station, and giving it a new purpose while celebrating its heritage.
For sure. And then there's the more recent redesign of the Almond Pavilion within the Orsay.
Ah, yes, for decorative arts, Nabis painters, Courbet's big canvases.
The focus there was on creating a more intuitive visitor flow, better vertical movement, a circular route on each floor.
Makes sense.
And a key decision was the sharp distinction between exhibition spaces using controlled artificial light for the art and the circulation hubs, which are naturally lit. A different feel.
And playing with scale, too. Intimate spaces for furniture versus the big open 5th floor with the clock and the Seine view.
Exactly. Very thoughtful curatorial approach through architecture. And that striking red wall is a landmark, the dark taupe for gallery walls. Interesting color choices.
Okay, let's shift away from Paris for a moment. The International Perfume Museum in Grasse. Unique challenge, conveying the intangible heritage of perfume.
Right. How do you show scent? Their concept of an interpretation center with satellite locations is pretty innovative.
And it's spread across multiple buildings on a hillside. Must have been complex.
Definitely. The way they created a central connection around an unearthed 14th century city wall revitalized by that glass nave sounds like a clever way to unify it all.
And the itinerary tells stories in 7 different settings. Sounds multi-sensory.
Perfectly suited to the subject, yeah.
Back in Strasbourg, the Tomy Ungar Museum, housed in the neoclassical Villa Greiner from 1884.
Here the approach prioritized respecting the building's style while adapting it. preserving the exterior,
But inside,
introducing that clean, contemporary, white cube aesthetic for the graphic works. A nuclear backdrop for the art, but within that historical shell. The white spiral staircase adds a subtle modern touch.
nice contrast. Then the Valence Museum of Fine Art and Archaeology in the old Episcopal Palace, a site with history going back to Gallo-Roman times.
Wow, the idea of a palindrome walk and the focus on the Hubert Robert collection sound intriguing. The architecture apparently preserved existing volumes, but added new parts as successive planes, showing that evolution.
Representing the layers of history. Makes sense.
Yeah.
The Quimper Museum of Fine Arts. Interesting challenge here, creating a dialogue between the original 1864 Neo-Tuscan Museum and its modern extension. A split personality theme. Bold.
It is. Displacing the original granite staircase, reinstating Fauves decor in a new wooden nave, dynamic moves.
Right.
And the emphasis on transparency, the play of Brittany's light on concrete, granite, beech wood, sounds beautiful.
Regionally specific atmosphere. Okay. The Bernard Museum in Le Cannet, another transformation of a Belle Epoque villa, preserving the spirit of the place again.
And linking it to Bernard's former home nearby. The glass column with the staircase and lift offering landscape views is a great way to connect inside and out, especially given his work.
Right, bringing the landscape in. Courbet Museum in Honance expanded from the Maison Hébert into adjoining buildings by the river. That large stainless steel box jutting out, that's a statement.
A very strong contemporary statement announcing the museum's new ambition. And the long horizontal sequence along the river symbolizes that too, but they kept the atmosphere of the original house.
Good balance. And the Revolutions rooms with a transparent display case that's also a gallery. Clever.
Yeah, unique way to engage.
La Piscine in Roubaix, the Museum of Art and Industry, transforming an old Art Deco swimming pool.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Truly, using original materials and that central pool reflecting the artworks. It's so evocative. And you can cover the pool for events. Very practical, too.
La Maison Rouge in Paris. Different approach, embracing the varied character of a site with a shop, courtyard house, industrial buildings.
Yeah, using each space specifically, avoiding false ceilings to keep that raw character.
Yeah.
Very authentic feel. And the restaurant right in the heart of the exhibition, democratic access.
Interesting. The Matisse Museum in Cateau-Cambrésis embodies this idea of continuous space, uniting building fragments and landscape. Architecture as a machine to slow down time. Poetic.
It is. Harmony in proportions, layering elements, creating a sense of presence.
Languedoc-Roussillon Regional Museum of Contemporary Art in Cerignan transformed an old winemaker's warehouse. Daniel Buren's rotation on the outside sounds striking.
Big, naturally lit spaces inside. And that special graphic arts room, offering a different perception experience. Aero's ceramic fresco outside adds more visual interest.
Jean-Frédéric Oberlin Museum in Waldersbach, dedicated to an 18th century pastor and educationalist, used renovated old buildings around the presbytery.
Connecting them to create a living museum. And the two approaches to presentation. Synchronic in the presbytery, diachronic in the extension. Offers a full picture.
Thoughtful structure. Okay, last one in this section. Lille Modern Art Museum Lamb extended the original 83 building for a large art brut collection.
Key goal was connection, not separation. The new extension has this gentle, curved form, two fantails enveloping the original.
Ah, so a contract.
Yeah, between the orthogonal original and the more organic extension for the art brut, reflecting the different art inside.
Makes sense. Okay, wow, that was a fantastic tour of innovations in historic spaces. Now, the document also explores brand new expressions museums built entirely from scratch must give architects more freedom.
Oh, absolutely, a wider canvas.
Yeah.
And the Pompidou Center in Paris is probably the ultimate icon of this, that radical design functions on the outside.
Pipes, escalators, everything visible.
Caused huge debate initially, but people embraced it fast. Became a symbol of modern Paris. Later changes focused on more museum space, better library access.
Truly challenged what a museum could look like. Then, the Eric Tabarly city of sailing in Lorient, symbol of revitalizing the submarine days. That description, shiny metal vessel hanging over the quay, striking.
Definitely. The contrast with the concrete bunkers is key. And its sustainable design, solar, natural ventilation, very contemporary.
City of the ocean in Biarritz, inspired by Basque coast waves. Beneath the sky, beneath the ocean, lovely concept.
The geometry, convex and concave surfaces, the planted roof is a public square. Strong connection to the landscape, very environmental.
Cartier Foundation for Contemporary Art in Paris. Almost ethereal glass and metal. Integrating that cedar tree in the vertical garden. blurring lines between nature and building.
Jean Nouvel's idea of quasi-dematerialization fits perfectly. Light, transparent, inviting interaction.
The Meaux Country Museum of the Great War, a much more somber, monumental approach. Brutal forms symbolizing mobilization's impact.
Yeah, very different feel. The sheltered forecourt with the map, the use of mannequins and multimedia inside that austere setting, designed to be visceral, impactful, evoking the war experience.
Institute of the Arab World in Paris. Fascinating synthesis of Arab and Western architectural ideas. Those diaphragms, the musharabis on the south facade.
Creating that amazing light and shadow play, so distinctive, culturally significant. And the north facade as a literal mirror of Western culture adds another layer.
And the Mobile Art Pavilion, Zaha Hadid's design, gifted to the Institute. That fluid, organic form.
Clearly using digital imaging to break free from geometry. Spiraling shapes, that parametric distortion of a torus, creating varied exhibition spaces inside. Classic Hadid.
Jean Cocteau Museum in Menton. Rudy Ricciotti's project aiming to strengthen the town towards the sea. Black and white aesthetic linked to Cocteau's work, play of shadows.
Yeah, the concept of the museum as a mirror of the artist and his work really guided the design. Resonates with Cocteau's vision and Menton's vibe.
Val-de-Marne Museum of Contemporary Art in Vitry-sur-Seine. Architecture revolving around artworks, artists, public. Linear geometry, contrasting planes, transparencies. Sounds open.
Using light as the raw material. Sand-colored concrete, dark wenge wood, a neutral but sophisticated backdrop for the contemporary art.
Malraux Museum in Le Havre. Pioneering early 60s building transformed. Preserved the double height volume, the flexibility. Those pivoting glass sunscreens are clever for light control.
And the ramp linking levels connects visually to the sea nearby too.
Strasbourg Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art embraces the city along the River Ill, connecting with urban features. Wide central nave. Contrast in materials evoking traditional architecture.
Grounding the modern building locally. Adaptable temporary exhibition room, rooftop sculpture, and restaurant with great views.
Quai Branly Museum in Paris. A meditation on the other and elsewhere. Designed to surround objects with mystery, rejecting Western rationality for illusion.
Yeah, a single open gallery with an imaginary geography. Dominance of half-light, tactile materials, differently vibrating facades, filtering light, very sensory, encouraging a different way of engaging.
Wirth Museum in Erstein, on the same industrial site as the HQ, creating contrast. Two identical parallel blocks of rough concrete.
Stark, functional, deliberately contrasting dimensions inside. Unusual use of natural light, lets the art speak.
Fazuna Gallo-Roman Site Museum in Perigeux, preserving and exhibiting remains of a large Roman residence. That thick wall directing the gaze to the Vasona Tower.
Links to the history. And Jean Nouvel's large sheltered courtyard with the metal umbrella protecting the mansion remains. Reveals and protects, as he said, with nobility and tact.
Okay, and the document wraps up with a peek at future projects, shows the ongoing evolution.
Right. The Confluences Museum in Lyon, at the meeting of the Saône and Rhône, that crystal and cloud concept, known and unknown, science and society, architecture aiming to be functional and ethereal, blending museum and urban leisure.
Sounds dynamic, adaptable. Then the Regional Fund of Contemporary Art, Passy in Marseille, a 3D version of Melrose Museum without walls, moving, living.
A landmark giving visibility to contemporary art. Two parts linked by footbridges, unified by that glass skin with changing opacity. Intriguing.
Marseille History Museum, tracing the city's history. Challenges of limited space. Using modular furniture called bales, evoking merchandise on the port. Clever detail.
Thematically relevant. And finally, the Museum of the Civilizations of Europe and the Mediterranean Museum in Marseille. Major project. Entrance to the Old Port.
Part of the European Capital of Culture initiative.
Yeah. New building on the J4 jetty linked to Fort Saint-Jean. Perfect 72-meter square design, smaller central square for exhibitions, interlaced ramps to the roof, tectonic choice of high-quality concrete. A real statement piece.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into French museum architecture, the key takeaway seems clear. This is a really dynamic field. History and innovation constantly intersecting.
Exactly. These buildings are way more than just containers. They're significant cultural artifacts themselves, shaping how we experience things.
We've definitely explored a remarkable range of approaches,
Yeah.
from, sensitive adaptive reuse of old buildings.
For groundbreaking new forms.
Yeah.
All designed really to enhance the visitor experience in our understanding of the collections inside.
Absolutely. And on that note, here's a final thought for you, our listener, to consider.
Yeah.
How does the architecture of a museum genuinely shape your perception? not just of the art inside, but maybe of the city around it too.
Yeah, what kind of architectural story do you think best serves the purpose of a museum today in the 21st century?
Something to mull over. We encourage you to maybe explore some of these places yourself if you get the chance.